Welcome back. Let's get after it.
Well, well, well. What do we have here? The flags of all nations, eh? I wonder if there's any interesting ones on there. I wonder. To deduce precisely what we're looking at, let's study this American flag with 40 stars. 40! Hello, ChatGPT. When did the U.S. have 40 states? The U.S. had 40 states from 1889 to 1890. So we know that the document is between the dates of 1889 and 1890. And the pirates have their own flag. Super cool. But this Chinese flag looks unique. I wonder what time period this is from. Well, the flag of the Qing dynasty was an emblem adopted in the late 1889 to 1890. So we know that this document's from 1889 to 1890, which makes this one very, very interesting. So the flag of Tartary, with a griffin on it, was considered a flag of a nation in 1889 to 1890. Well, what Tartary are they talking about exactly? This Tartary? Perhaps this Tartaria? I believe this may be it. I bet you didn't know they had a Tartarian Sea. That's right, Mare Tartaricum. And where does that leave us, except to conclude that in the years 1889 to 1890, people around the world still considered Tartaria a nation.
I wanted so bad to put this one in here yesterday, but I couldn't because of the music being copyrighted. But I figured out a way to fix it and put my own music. So I think this is one of the best videos there is for evidence that Tartaria used to exist, or that it still does exist. But this at least shows that it did at one point exist. It was on our maps and people were aware of it. Why are we being told it was never here? Why are we being told it never existed? That's an interesting question. Now, the second clip is going to be one that was in yesterday's video, but I had to remove the audio because it got copyright stricken. But today I'll leave the audio in because I figured out a way to fix it.
Furthermore, the velocity and path of the moon are uniform and should therefore exert a uniform influence on the Earth's tides, when in actuality, the Earth's tides vary greatly and do not follow the moon. Earth's lakes, ponds, marshes, and other inland bodies of water also inexplicably remain forever outside the moon's gravitational grasp. If gravity was truly drawing Earth's oceans up to it, all lakes, ponds, and other bodies of standing water should certainly have tides as well. It is claimed that the other planets are spheres, and so therefore Earth must also be a sphere. Firstly, Earth is a plane, not a planet, so the shape of these planets in the sky have no bearing on the shape of the Earth beneath our feet. Secondly, these planets have been known for thousands of years around the world as the wandering stars, since they differ from the other fixed stars in their relative motions only. When looked at with an unprejudiced naked eye or through a telescope, the fixed and wandering stars appear as luminous disks of light, not spherical terra firma. The pictures and videos shown by NASA of spherical terra firma planets are all clearly fake computer-generated images and not photographs.
So I already reacted to that yesterday, so I'm not going to do another reaction to it. I just wanted to put it in there because I've had about a dozen comments asking me to re-upload it with the audio. So there y'all go.
I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
Yeah, that's not you, though. If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick.
Okay.
You know, we don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Would say I spent most of my life reacting to life before I woke up and started living. So I can get behind that statement.
You got your ears open? You listening? All you have to do anti-gravity, all you want in any university laboratory in this country is make a pumped phase conjugate mirror at 100 to 400 hertz. Let me say that again, and I'm not going to answer any questions on it. All you have to do, if you want to make all the anti-gravity you wish to make, and any university laboratory in this country can do it, it's simple, doesn't take much power, is make a pumped phase conjugate mirror between 100 and 400 hertz. Enough said. We got plenty of people making pumped phase conjugate mirrors, and these guys don't ever see anti-gravity. Why? I just told you you can do it that way. Am I a fool, or did they miss something? So high energy photons, high frequency photons, are not going to have very much negative times, even when they're antiphotons. They'll have very little, and anti-gravity depends on negative time. Let's reason together. If in positive time, the assumption in Newton's crazy little old gravitational law, attraction of mass, what's the assumption? Positive time. Anybody ever tell you that? No, because they never thought of it. But if you reverse the time, do you not back up the situation? Does now mass not repel? And we have just told you can go into the nucleus and start charging the nucleus with a pattern including negative time. We have just told you that you had to use low frequency. Why? Because you want a big delta T. You don't want a big delta E. Delta E gets in your way, tears you up. So the optics boys never see this. That is so far in the grass you can't even measure it where they're at. They never thought about doing it at 400 hertz. You go home and try it in your laboratory. And then sit on the side laughing for the next 2-3 hours. And how silly we've all been for years. And how easy it is to do it. I will tell you, if you pursue that, you can take a flashlight battery and levitate a battleship, and I will not discuss that further. Because then you're going to ask me about the Philadelphia experiment, and I'm going to tell you I don't know anything about that.
I'd be willing to put money on it that this guy doesn't know anything about the Philadelphia experiment. If he's given that talk saying it's that easy to create anti-gravity, I feel like if it was that simple, it would be a lot more well known. Maybe there's some armchair scientists in the crowd today that can walk out to your garage and perform a little test experiment and get back to us in the comments section and let us know if this is real or not.
There was a time where Antarctica,
perhaps 90 million years ago, there was a lush rainforest that is now covered in miles of ice on the Antarctic continent.
a friend of ours, who will remain nameless, went there. And he said a couple interesting things. He said the mountains looked eerily pointy and four-sided. He said way more mountainous than he thought it would be. He said there is a pact with every country that has a slice of it that they will not dig or remove any minerals from Antarctica. They are clearly protecting or preserving something that may or may not be under, I believe it's 3 miles at its thickest of ice.
I'm going to say if they have a pact saying that they will not remove any minerals or anything from the ice, which we know is happening. You hear all these stories about them digging for ice samples and core samples and stuff, so maybe they are not removing it from the area. Maybe they're just removing it from the ground and testing it. But if they have an agreement to not do that, it makes me wonder, is there something under there that they don't want to escape? Do they think there's something under there they don't want to escape? Hey, if you're enjoying this content, it'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back to join me tomorrow, because I make a new video just like this one every single day.
They took cores of it out of boreholes in the ground. Just like normal ice, it was mostly clear and sometimes white, and it would melt into liquid water if it got warm. The whole area of Antarctica is covered in this kind of ice. But that wasn't their main kind of ice. The only time I ever saw them actually studying normal ice was when a film crew from National Geographic came by. The rest of the time, which was most of the time, the scientists were studying something they called sky ice. This stuff was totally different. We were never allowed to go into the laboratory areas of the station because the labs had to be kept super clean and they said it would mess up their work if they risked letting too many people in the lab. But one time, one of the researchers that I was friends with showed me a piece of sky ice. You couldn't touch the stuff with your bare hands because it was so cold. And it wasn't clear or white like normal ice. It was solid blue. He said that's why they call it sky ice, because it was the exact same color as the sky. We had to wear thick, heavy going outside gloves to handle it. The stuff was so cold, it would instantly freeze your skin if you touched it. I don't remember what the temperature he said it was, but it was something like hundreds of degrees below zero, way colder than the normal ice that was outside. He had to carry it in a metal bottle that was kind of like a thermos. He let me play with the piece of it for a while. It felt lighter than a piece of normal ice of the same size, like it wasn't very heavy at all. It almost felt like you could throw it up in the air and it would just float back down. But I didn't try that. And it was also a little flexible when I tried to bend it. It didn't break like normal ice would. And even for a small piece, you could see through it. It was solid blue right from the surface. And here's the really weird part. It didn't melt into water. When it got warm, because we had it inside, it just started to shrink. It got smaller and smaller, but my glove never got wet. And there was no water on the floor. The stuff just turned into thin air when it got warm and vaporized. He said that was the reason why they had to study the stuff right there in Antarctica. You couldn't take the sky ice back to America to study it because it was almost impossible to keep it cold enough during transit. And then they shared a verse right here which says, "And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it." And then we continue off where it says, "It would always vaporize into air, and you'd have nothing left when you got back to the U.S., he said. Russian scientists had discovered the same problem when they tried to take the ice back to Russia. So that was why they all had research stations in Antarctica. After maybe 15 minutes of handling the piece of sky ice, it was almost completely gone. Just a tiny little bit was left. And my glove was dry.
Well, this kind of answers the question of why they can't, or why they are all in agreement not to take any minerals back, because the stuff they're studying can't be brought back anyway. So why not agree to not bring anything home? It won't make it.
I especially love this Apollo 11 redocking footage. This is absolutely ridiculous. These are 1960s special effects and are obviously fake to even a child. Look at the jerky motions. Look at the total lack of thrusters being used. I've had many people ask me if this is genuine NASA footage, and yes, it is. I actually feel pretty bad for you if you believe that's a spaceship that just blasted off from the moon traveling at 4,000 miles per hour.
But there's a lot of footage available that's been taken from the International Space Station, the ISS. This is it here. Of course, a lot of live interviews and videos have been done and recorded from the ISS. And that's resulted in a lot of footage to look at. First, and this one's just kind of really funny to me, it turns out that there's a lot of weird looking hair on the space station. It's like the hair is gelled or hairsprayed up, like straight up, and it's not supposed to move. Why not just let it flow and showcase its weightlessness? Maybe it would get in the way, but there are also ponytails and such, right?
Have a look at her hair. There's something odd about her hair. I know this is zero gravity and hair is supposed to stick out and go all over the place, but her hair doesn't really flop around naturally. It's always sticking out kind of rigidly. Maybe they permed it in that position, or perhaps they're hanging her upside down. As she shakes her head from side to side slightly, you can see the hair always springs back to a particular position with respect to her head. It should flop all over the place.
You look like you're in a studio, maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
Okay, this is a good place to freeze for a moment and transition, because things go from questioning weird hair to deeper levels of strange.
See the hair?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something for you.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Watch this.
It looks like this guy is grabbing a wire attached to the guy next to him. He's not grabbing air, and there is no reason why any of these guys would be wearing wires in space. Someone I know wondered that when I showed them this video. Believe me, you're going to be just like the person I talked to, because you will look for answers. You will look for ways to rationalize these things that I show you. Just understand, I've asked the same questions. Why, how, and what am I really seeing?
I just can't help but feel sorry for all these young children who had dreams of becoming an astronaut and went through all this gruesome schooling and all this to get the right kind of degree and went through all the training and everything only to find out it's all hair gel and wires.
You want a massive plot twist? Hang on to the end. Here's the first part of the story. They just put human brain tissue on a computer chip and it started acting smarter than our best AI in less than 48 hours. And they tested it with some pretty complex problems, including some advanced math and human speech recognition. Now, you need to understand just how small the human brain tissue was that they plugged into this chip, because it was less than a nanometer in diameter, which granted is bigger than the brains of either of the two leading presidential candidates we have, but still way smaller than a grain of sand. So how smart are these neuron-chipped computers? Well, on day 0 of loading in 240 audio clips of human males speaking Japanese, that little brain chip, from hearing just one vowel of one of those clips, was able to figure out the source of that vowel to 51% accuracy, and after 2 more days, it increased its accuracy to almost 80%. Way smaller than a grain of sand. The math tests, it was fed some Hanom maps, which are dynamic nonlinear systems with a bunch of chaos. Not simple math, even for AI. And it compared its performance to an AI heads up. Not only did it kick the standard AI's ass, it crushed the strong AI's learning curve by over 90%. Now, I wrote an article for a science conference about a decade ago or so, where I explained exactly why we would need to integrate organic matter into our current silicon-based architecture to push computing forward. It looks like they're finally getting it done. The advantages that our brain-powered chips have over existing AI is threefold. The first is power consumption. Our average human brain, full capacity, only burns about 20 watts max, while an AI neural net can require up to 8 million watts. That's a big power burn and heat savings. Second, our brain neurons are very well positioned to be able to take noisy, low-quality data streams and make sense of them with minimal training and high energy efficiency. But third, and the plot twist is coming, our neurons are literally hardwired into the quantum field, giving us access to infinite intelligence. And thus those little brain cells on that chip have access to infinite intelligence. There is a reason that less than a nanometer of brain cells is smarter than AIs, because it's powered by God's intelligence, which we are now starting to be able to measure. Now, if you want to understand how you're wired into infinite intelligence in layman's terms, including all the stuff you need to know for the next decade, and remember, I'm the guy who called this brain tissue chip thing a decade ago. I published that information less than a month ago. But here's the plot twist. The science of this brain tissue utilizing computer chips is going to prove the science of your spiritual existence. You think God's not a scientist? There's your plot twist. None of the book's about religion, but it's all about your connection into absolutely everything in the consciousness of the universe. There's stuff that higher intelligence wants you to know, and it's stuff that science is confirming daily. I love you guys, and I want you to tap into this stuff. And God kind of wants you to know the science. Love you guys. Peace.
This makes me wonder if that Neuralink thing is going to turn us into the supercomputers, and we're just going to be, yet again, cannon fodder for whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. Only this time it will be more in the literal sense.
On the Edfu temple, Thoth, Isis, Horus, Osiris, and those beings, they claim, came at the time of Zep Tepi, that's the beginning times, and they said they turned mud into a kingdom. And of course, the Sumerians have the same exact story in the Sumerian tablets, in the Atrahasis epic, in the Enuma Elish. The technology that they had back then, 450,000 years ago, we aren't even close to cracking that code.
We certainly had some advanced civilizations in our past. I believe that 100%. Not convinced that that is an accurate depiction. It sounds a little far-fetched.
Why is the government lying to us about history? There is a civilization as recent as 100 years ago that was omitted from the history books called the Tartarian Empire, and it was technologically far superior. They were able to convert atmospheric pressure into electricity, and as a result of unlimited free energy, They were able to direct their focus towards unity, oneness, peace, love, and harmony, which we don't see in today's society as there is no profit for evil people in times of peace. Tartaria was a country with its own government, its own flag, and its own place on the map. Its territory was huge, covering over 3 million square miles, and if you look back far enough, the country exists on maps predating the 19th century. The Great Wall of China, which is located on China's northern border, is believed to have been built by the Tartarians, although history would say otherwise. There are openings on the wall that are only accessible from the north face of the wall, or from Tartaria. The world government destroyed an entire utopia and kept it hidden because they don't want humanity knowing that there is sustainability in the collective without the interference of heads of state.
I like that one because it actually gives an explanation of why our government could be hiding this extra continent or this extra part of civilization from us. Could be that they're the ones flying around in the UFOs just checking us out, seeing how close we are to blowing each other up.
Yo, somebody's been lying. But we're about to get to the bottom of it. Alright, we find ourselves in a weird time. Alright, a time where people are getting replaced. Lands are being conquered. And people can go from looking like one thing to looking like something completely different. Overnight. So in 1755, Benjamin Franklin said that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. So how did the numbers change so drastically? Watch this.
On this photo from Portland, Maine, of the old City Hall. In their newspaper from 1888, they wrote that it was built in 1825 and was used in 1832. So this was going on like 200 years ago. And you can see what they're all riding around on. They were able to build these kind of structures so fast, apparently, that after 63 years, this thing was so outdated and needed to be demolished. And it's interesting because this exact story is given to us all over the USA. And in all honesty, it's all over the world. It's weird how we were told that they lived in sheds, yet could afford to knock down relatively new structures like this. Oh, and we are told that they built this thing with a population of like 8,000 people. Like I said before, anyone on a horse, a donkey, and anyone who had a wagon, a shovel, or a chisel was born with incredible architecture skills in the 1800s. It's incredible stuff. And I know some of you have mentioned this topic in the comments below. Well, here is a conveniently half-destroyed photo from the 1904 World's Fair. And if we just zoom in a little, you can see what this exhibit was. And here's the description we are given. Served as a fair attraction in a working hospital. This is normal for a fair attraction? These fairs have a much darker purpose than what we have been told. Just read that last sentence. They were brought from hospitals to the concessions. Well, they were brought from somewhere, and this is such a weird thing. Using common sense, how many mothers would allow their kid that is born early to leave the hospital to be, in their own words, an attraction at a fair? Let's use our brains a little now. These are not coming from the hospital, in my opinion. If you want me to get more into this, I will. But I think we get the point, that this was an operation to populate these cities again. And when did Ellis Island start taking immigrants? New Year's Day, 1892. Perfect time to start an operation. You don't find it odd that right around the exact same time period as these World's Fairs, you have these operations to refill the USA back up with a brand new batch of people.
So we're speaking about the World's Fair, all right? And when you think about the World's Fair, you think about the architecture. And we know that the architecture is Moorish architecture, is Tartarian architecture. But who are the Tartarians? Who were the true architects? All right, Qurai Turks, all right? Their name meaning black may ultimately derive from the Quraysh, a Turco-Mongol polity in the 11th century Central Asia, absorbed into the Mongol Empire and participated in the Mongol invasion of the 13th century, but may also be connected to those of various other Central Asian groups, all right? After various groups of these Turkic nomads became part of the armies of the Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan in the early 13th century, a fusion of Mongol and Turkic elements took place. The Turco-Mongols, a term referring to a mixture of Mongol and Turkic peoples, were often known historically by the terms of Tatars or Tartars. Kirites. All right, the Mongol legend traced the clan back to 8 brothers with unusually dark faces. The Greek name Aethiopes in Ethiopian is a compound word derived from the 2 Greek words translate as burnt face. So these Tartars derived from the 8 brothers who had unusually dark faces in the Asia area. And just like faces can change overnight, and Moses can be brown, and a Somali man can be white, we'll see how a people that derive from 8 brothers known with unusually dark faces can turn fairly bright. Somebody's been lying.
I'm not exactly 100% certain what that guy's trying to get at with all of the race swapping stuff. If someone could explain that to me a little better layman's terms down in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate it. It seems like there's a lot more information, though, if you just dig, that it just seems like there's constant references in all this history to the Tartarians, even though they're not supposed to have existed.
Okay.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This is crazy. Huge sheet of water, 300 to 400 feet deep. It's rushing over. It begins to just strip away the rock. This cataract complex is about 5 miles across. And you can see what it's done to the bedrock. We're on the rock blade right there. So now you can begin to see the scale of this thing that we were just seeing from Google Earth.
Well, now the way when you describe it, God.
There you get a sense.
Oh my God.
There you get a sense of the rock blade.
Well, there you get a sense of what the volume of water must have looked like. It was rushing through there.
See the man standing right down there on the rock? See him?
Oh, that little dude?
That little dude is 6 feet tall. No, in real life, he's actually only 4 inches. Look at the people standing on the cliff edge there, the edge of the rock. Do you see him down there? What would survive, again, in the aftermath?
Not that dude.
No, not that dude.
I love Joe Rogan. Not that dude. Yeah, this is just more evidence that there was a great flood that wiped out civilization and we had to start over. I think we're going to go ahead and call it quits on this video here. I hope you guys like these clips. There were a couple in there that I was really excited to get to fix so that I could throw in. This Tartaria stuff's getting really, really fascinating. The more I dig into it, the more I find there's historical references to the people of Tartaria or to the place of Tartary. I feel like there's definitely something there. But we'll find out because we're going to keep digging. So I will see you guys tomorrow in the next one. And until then, stay safe. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.